Bruh, we have to talk, man. What the hell did I just see last night? You know what I mean? I can't be the only one thinking this. What the hell did I just see last night? Kamaru Usman fighting against Leon Edwards. This is the second fight. What did we see different than the first fight? Yo, we got some stuff to get into. I definitely want to hit on this. I definitely want to hit on the Joshua Usyk rematch because, yo, yesterday turned out to be a pretty good day for combat sports. We're going to get into it. Come on, man. Let's go. Yeah, man. So, Mr. Usman. Yo, I have to preface what I'm about to say by saying this. Kamaru Usman is my favorite UFC fighter. He's my number one UFC fighter. I will say this. Before his blast onto the scene, Max Holloway was my favorite fighter. Kamaru Usman is my favorite fighter, not just because about what he can do inside of the ring from a physical standpoint, but what he brings to the table mentally, emotionally, spiritually. This guy is built different. Kamaru Usman has that Nigerian blood running through his veins. You can tell every time you see him. Now, with that being said, Kamaru Usman himself said that the only matchup for him in the welterweight division is Leon Edwards. Not because he's lightning fast or because he has the sharpest tools out there, but because of his style, his patient style. He can fight switch stance. So you see him go to southpaw a lot, whereas most of his best striking comes from the southpaw stance, talking about Leon Edwards. So this wasn't a cakewalk fight. You kind of figured a fighter like Leon Edwards was going to come back a second fight and actually have a different strategy. He's not a brawler or, some guy who just recklessly does moves. So he's tactical with it. He's tactical. He was going to come, with a game plan for this second fight. And we saw that in the first round. Leon Edwards shooting for takedowns actually became the first person in the history of UFC to successfully take down Kamaru Usman. Why is that a big deal? Well, you look at all these fights in the past. Nobody except maybe Colby Covington one time where he made Usman's hands touch the mat, gloves touch the mat. Other than that, nobody's even gotten close. His takedown defense is superior. Elite. Okay? So that's not something you expected to see. Leon Edwards grappling, clinching, successfully getting Kamaru Usman to the ground. Not even just that. He successfully took Kamaru Usman's back, which is something you never see. Going into this fight, I kind of wondered. I know Kamaru Usman's 35 years old. I know that this sport, attrition when it comes to this sport is you don't find out until the guy's in the ring against viable competition. And, the last time we saw Usman, he was just as sharp as ever. But you have to wonder, each fight has this space, this gap in between. At 35, how do you stay committed? Of course, he's committed to his body. He's committed to his craft. But how do you stay committed to complete excellence? Well, Kamaru Usman displayed that. After round one, he gathered himself. And I noticed when he first got in the ring, he didn't have any lather, no sweat. It was almost like, I don't know. You want to see like a big fight. You want to see guys start the fight off already sweating. You don't want to see anybody come to the ring dry as hell. That's a bad tell. I think a lot of times they mess these guys up in these sports when they let them walk to the ring and then they do 2 national anthems and announcements and they've been standing in the ring. I've seen guys stand in the ring for 30 minutes waiting on the fight to start, and it's like, how is a guy supposed to keep his tendons and his bones loose and his muscles warmed up for a combat sport event, a major combat sport event, when he's been standing around for 30 minutes listening to national anthems? So this sucks to say, man, but last night was the first time I ever saw a mental slip up from this guy, from Usman. First time. All these fights. First time. This is a guy who stays coming forward. He stays aggressive. He stays to his true skills, to his true strengths the entire fight. To beat him, you would have thought you would had to have somebody that not just has striking power, not just has ground ability, not just has elite wrestling skills, not just have elite ground transition skills, maybe throw submission skills in there. You would have thought that it would have took somebody who's steadily on their P's and Q's the whole fight, no matter what happens. That's what we saw last night. I saw Leon Edwards, who, after the second round, he was looking a little
tired.
But it wasn't like Usman wasn't looking tired. That first round took a lot out of him. It was a lot of knee to the thighs. All fighters are taught, when something's bothering you, pretend like it's not. But at some point in combat sports, it becomes easy psychology. And if it's easy psychology for the viewer, it's easy psychology for the fighters in the ring. So when guys are, making light of getting struck, making light of thighs to the legs, knees to the legs, that you have to know that, okay, a man can't just sit there and get kneed in the legs. You know what I mean? A man can't just sit there and get dominated on the ground for a whole round and everything is cool. So while I'm watching this going on and you can't really tell that it's bothering Usman, you have to know that after that first round, Usman said to himself, I got to turn it up. I got to turn it on. I got to go to my strengths. And he did that. Just like a true champion should do. Usman did that. It's not like we're sitting here talking about a man who is used to things going his way. Something went wrong. Something didn't go his way, and then he lost all sight of who he is. No, this guy honed in on his craft in the moment where he may have lost the round. You don't see that often. Kamaru Usman losing a round. He may have lost that first round. I'll give it to Leon Edwards the first round. From second round, third round, at the end of the third round, after Kamaru figured out his striking distance, displayed the same takedown defense that we're accustomed to seeing, dominated Leon Edwards on the ground, wrestling-wise. I swear, after the fourth round, bro, even the commentators were saying, I think it's over. It looked like, I saw Leon Edwards' trainer slapping him in the face between rounds like, yo, snap out of it. This is not, you worked all this time for this, and here's the moment, and you're not stepping up to the plate. That's literally can sum up round 2, 3, and 4, and round 5. Where did Kamaru Usman make his mistake? Where did he make his mistake? Okay? The entire fight, Leon Edwards is feinting. He's moving his head. Whenever they were standing up, he had great head movement. He was switching stance. Anytime he was in the southpaw stance, he was connecting. He connected on Usman quite a few times in comparison to other fights. Let me don't get me wrong. Usman does not care about taking hits. Usman's head is the size of a freaking watermelon. Therefore, you would think it takes a lot to knock him out. And in the past, taking shots from guys like Colby Covington, that his chin is on 100, his body's on 100, his legs are on 100, his overall stamina is on 100, his toughness is on 100. You don't know where the chink in his armor is. Well, maybe it's a rookie mistake here. Maybe Kamaru can go back and look and say, hey, I had the fight won in dominating fashion. Where did I mess up? And you look at it, and Leon Edwards has been throwing this left hand and connecting all fight long. Not to say he was like overpowering Usman, but he was connecting on the left hand. To the last few minutes of the fight, you could kind of see Usman had let his guard down a little bit. All the P's and Q's that we talked about earlier in the video went out the window. At this point, you're up, 3-4 rounds to 1 with a minute left in the fight. All you have to do is close the show. The guy's going to come forward and give his best shot. What Usman does is he steps forward with his hands down. Leon Edwards is in the southpaw stance. Usman's been reacting to that all night the same way. He's been ducking out to his right. So throwing that, when Leon Edwards threw the left or feinted the left, Usman slipped to his right. So he threw the left and threw the kick at the same time, knowing that Usman's head was going to be there. Usman all night had been ducking out to his right with his right hand up, protecting his right side of his head. This one instance was an instance where he just ducked out. He slipped out without that right hand up. And you kind of saw his eyes get wide as, if you're watching in slow motion, you see Usman's eyes get wide and you see him try to get his hand into position to block the kick, but it was just too late. So anybody can be had in this sport. I think that's one of the best, the most intriguing things about the sport. Whereas we had an Usyk Joshua fight yesterday, and it was at best. As far as heavyweights, you wanted to see it was a 12-round fight. By the 10th round, we knew who had won the fight, and you want to see a guy like Anthony Joshua go balls to wall and freaking leave it all out there. That's not what you saw. That's not what I saw. I saw a guy who knew he had lost the fight and was kind of like okay with it, long as he didn't get knocked out, long as he wasn't embarrassed. After the fight, it was embarrassing in totality. You could see, he was kind of disappointed the way he finished the fight. But Usman, Leon Edwards stole the night. Why? Because you had two guys who had already fought each other, just like Usyk and Anthony Joshua earlier in the day. You had two guys that had already fought each other and had to go retool. They had to go retool. Not so much Usman as Leon Edwards, but you saw a completely different fight than you saw the first time. Completely different strategy used. And you saw guys respecting each other in a way like, I'm going to give you my best. If you can take that, then you deserve to win. Anthony Joshua doesn't. I don't think he has that in him, man. I don't think he has that in him. Even when Andy Ruiz lost a little weight and took it to him, Anthony Joshua laid down. I didn't see so much laying down yesterday as far as like just completely giving up, but dudes just start swinging at the air, getting visibly frustrated in the ring, which if the fan sees that a fighter's frustrated, better believe the opponent can see. So in combat sports, you pretty much have to play this mental chess where you're not relinquishing your emotions to the opponent. You're not really like every time you get hurt, you're not showing it. When you might feel an inkling like you're behind in the fight, behind on the cards, you can't behave that way because in a fight, you're watching each behavior, each mannerism, each movement, each reaction. A guy takes a jab well in the first round. How does he take it in the 8th round? How does he take it in the 10th round? I don't think that Kamaru Usman can get his rematch until July because all the cards are filled up not July. All the cards are filled up until January. So it's going to be some time for Leon Edwards. Maybe get a tune-up fight in between. All I know is it has to be a rematch. It has to be a trilogy fight. And honestly, I expect Kamaru Usman to come in flawless and get his belts back. I don't know who can actually beat Usman because I'm not a luck type person. I don't think that kick was luck. I think that it was a lack of discipline in the last 50 seconds where Usman had dominated him so much that he felt he couldn't get hurt. I don't think Usman was hurt at any point in the night. So naturally, took an inch of his guard down and that foot slipped right through that inch of space and knocked him out cold. Whereas most fighters, they have the match won. They're on their bicycle. Most fighters, when they have a 4-1 lead in the fight, they're on their bicycle the last 50 seconds, last 30 seconds, and they're just trying to get up out of there with the win. This guy continued to come forward. And not only that, he came forward with his hands down. So I don't call it luck. I call it, hey, one guy that had every reason in the world to, kind of pack it in and say, I just can't beat this guy. He found something. And there is no high kick that's a weakness. That doesn't say there's a weakness in Kamaru Usman, like, oh, he can't take kicks to the head. Nobody can take a kick like that to the head with their hands completely down and slipping down into the kick. That's a knockout 9.5 times out of 10. So I don't know where is to go for Leon Edwards for here. If Colby Covington gets his hands on him, he's taking that belt. Everybody in the welterweight division is knocking on the door right now, trying to get that belt before Usman gets him back. But I expect Usman to come back and be flawless. I expect Leon Edwards. He's been like I won't say a running joke, but his career, just hasn't panned out the way it could, even though he has an outstanding record. He took some tough L's. The L's he took from top tier opposition. I was literally thinking right before the kick happened, man, this guy he just gets the shitty end of the stick because he can dominate everybody except the top 2 guys in the division. So I was thinking, like, man, it's really nowhere for this guy to go. You know, this is probably the last major loss that you can take on a pay-per-view event before you get moved down a slot to, you know, the undercard, not the undercard, but, you know, the co-main type fights. But yeah, he stole the belts, man. I ain't seen any anger out of Usman because it's like, you know, this guy can't really fucking beat me. You know, he caught me slipping. And any combat fighter with integrity is going to see that for what it is. Usman's probably watched the fight, you know, a million times by now, and he's like, damn, I was tripping. I get it too. So happens in every sport. You know, a team in basketball goes up by 40, they lift the foot off the gas. Next thing you know, the other team's on a 30-something to 10 run, and they're back in the game, and from there you have a whole new ball game. So lesson learned. I thought that was an amazing fight. I damn near fell asleep in the last round just because I was tired. But
oh my God. Oh my God. Edwards, let me tell you, Usman is better than him, right? But that's not, who cares? Edwards knocked him out because Edwards